If you've ever sat in front of a laptop at 2 in the morning, staring at a blinking cursor while your heart races, you know it isn't about being lazy. In fact, it's usually the opposite. You're paralyzed because you care too much. You care so deeply about the outcome that the thought of doing it imperfectly feels like a threat to who you are. It's a strange paradox. We assume that if something matters to us, we should find it easy to start. But for many, the higher the stakes, the heavier the resistance. This isn't a flaw in your character, it's a sophisticated, albeit painful defense mechanism. When we procrastinate on something important, we aren't avoiding the work. We're avoiding the emotions that come with the work. We're avoiding the possibility of being judged, the fear of failing, or perhaps most deeply, the fear of discovering that our best isn't as good as we hoped it would be. Think about the micro behaviors that happen when you're avoiding that one big task. You might find yourself cleaning the kitchen with sudden intensity or falling down a research rabbit hole for 3 hours, telling yourself you just need one more piece of information before you can begin. These aren't distractions, they are productive looking hiding spots. They allow you to maintain the identity of someone who is working without ever having to face the vulnerability of actually creating something that can be critiqued. This pattern usually starts as a form of emotional safety. At some point, you likely learned that your value was tied to your performance. If you do something and it's not perfect, then you are not perfect. And if you aren't perfect, you aren't safe. So the brain develops a clever solution. If I never finish, I can never be judged. If I wait until the last minute and the result is mediocre, I can tell myself I just didn't have enough time. It's a way to protect the real you from ever being truly tested. That's not weakness, it's protection. Your mind is trying to shield you from the perceived danger of being seen and found wanting. And here's where it gets interesting. The real reason we stay stuck isn't what most people think. We're told we need better time management or more discipline. But the core of the issue isn't about time at all, it's about control. By procrastinating, you are exercising the only form of control you feel you have over a high pressure situation: the power to choose when and how you fail. If you wait until the 11th hour, you've already decided the outcome won't be your absolute best. You've given yourself an out. You've created a buffer between your identity and your output. It's much easier to live with the idea that you ran out of time than the idea that you gave it your all and it still wasn't enough. This is why the things you care about most are often the hardest to start. The project that feels like a calling, the conversation that could change a relationship, the creative pursuit that feels like your soul's work, these carry the most weight. Because if these fail, it feels like you fail. We often treat our procrastination as a moral failing. We call ourselves procrastinators as if it's a permanent part of our DNA. But when we look closer, we see it's actually a sign of how much respect we have for the task at hand. You wouldn't be this stressed if the work didn't mean something to you. The resistance is a shadow cast by the importance of the goal. When you see it through this lens, the narrative shifts. You aren't fighting a lack of willpower. You are managing an intensity of feeling. You are navigating a world where you have linked your self worth to your doing, and your mind is simply trying to keep that self worth intact by keeping you still. Understanding this doesn't immediately make the work easier, but it does make it less heavy. Once you recognize that the stuck feeling is just your internal protector trying to keep you safe from judgment, the protector loses some of its power. You start to see the procrastination not as an obstacle, but as a signal that you are standing on the edge of something that matters. It was never about the clock. It was never about being better or faster. It was always about the quiet, heavy pressure of caring. Once you see the pattern for what it is, a shield, not a flaw, you can't unsee it. And that awareness alone changes how you move. You realize that the discomfort isn't a sign to stop. It's just the feeling of your identity trying to stay safe in a world that requires you to be seen. Understanding yourself in these moments is the beginning of everything, because when you stop blaming your character, you can finally start looking at your patterns. And once you understand the pattern, you're no longer its prisoner. It's